Have you ever called your cat or dog and they just didn't respond? Or maybe they looked up, tilted their head, and seemed to say, "Oh, that's me." It's a small moment, but it's also surprisingly fascinating. Pets recognizing their names isn't just about luck or training. They're actually processing sounds, context, and meaning in ways we're only beginning to understand. Today, we're diving into how cats and dogs recognize their names and what it really tells us about how they think and communicate. Right here, on History of Simple Things. To understand how pets recognize their names, we first need to consider how animals process sound. Dogs and cats both rely heavily on auditory cues to navigate their environment. Dogs, for instance, have an impressive hearing range, up to 65,000 Hz, compared to humans' 20,000 Hz. This allows them to detect subtle variations in tone, pitch, and intonation that we might miss. Cats, while not as vocal as dogs in their social interactions, also have keen hearing, especially in the higher frequency range. But recognizing a name isn't just about hearing, it's about learning to associate a specific sound with an outcome. In other words, your pet doesn't just hear Max or Luna. They learn that this sound often predicts something meaningful, like attention, food, or play. This is where conditioning and social learning come into play. Dogs are especially good at connecting words with actions or rewards. Research from the University of Helsinki tested over 200 dogs and found that many can reliably distinguish their own names from other words, even unfamiliar ones. When a dog hears its name, areas of its brain associated with reward and attention light up, similar to how humans respond to their own names. What's fascinating is that dogs are sensitive to both the word itself and the tone of voice. For example, a dog is more likely to respond enthusiastically if you say their name in a happy, upbeat tone rather than a neutral or angry one. This explains why dogs sometimes react more to Max yelled in excitement than the same word spoken calmly. Essentially, the brain combines memory of the word, context, and emotional tone to decide whether to respond. Cats, on the other hand, are often seen as aloof, so it might surprise you that they, too, recognize their names. A study published in Scientific Reports in 2019 found that most cats could distinguish their own names from other words, even when spoken by strangers. Researchers played recordings of familiar names and random words for 78 cats. Over 2/3 of the cats visibly reacted by moving their ears, tail, or head when they heard their own name. The key difference between cats and dogs is motivation. Dogs are typically eager to please and respond actively, while cats are more independent. Recognition doesn't always lead to action. A cat might hear "whiskers" and know it's being addressed, yet choose to stay where it is because there's no compelling reason to move. In other words, cats understand more than they act on, a trait that probably comes from their evolutionary history as solitary hunters. So how do pets actually learn their names in the first place? It all comes down to repetition, association, and positive reinforcement. Puppies and kittens often start learning their names during socialization with humans. Every time a pet hears their name followed by attention, food, or play, the brain forms a mental link. This sound predicts something important. Timing matters too. If the name is said in the context of something neutral or negative, the association may weaken or even backfire. That's why yelling a name in anger can sometimes make pets ignore it in the future. Consistency and positive reinforcement are key. Over time, the sound of their name alone becomes a powerful cue that signals interaction or reward. There's a common myth that cats and dogs respond to names simply because of training or habit. While conditioning plays a role, studies show their brains actually differentiate specific sounds. They're not just reacting to any loud noise, they genuinely recognize a unique auditory pattern tied to themselves. Another misconception is that cats are untrainable in this regard. In reality, cats are capable learners. They just prioritize outcomes differently than dogs. Interestingly, pets can also pick up multiple cues simultaneously. For example, dogs often respond better when their name is combined with body language, facial expressions, or even eye contact. Cats also notice visual signals, though they tend to rely more on context than emotional tone. Understanding that your pet truly knows its name can change how you interact with them. It's not just about getting them to come when called, it's about building communication. Using their name consistently in positive contexts strengthens trust and reinforces bonding. For cats, even a small head tilt or ear twitch in response to their name can be considered a meaningful acknowledgement. For dogs, a wagging tail or quick glance often means, "Yes, I'm listening." This insight also encourages patience. If your cat ignores you, it doesn't mean they're disobedient. It just means the reward or context isn't compelling enough. Dogs, meanwhile, may get distracted by other stimuli, but they still recognize the sound. So next time you call your furry friend, remember, they aren't just hearing random sounds. They're processing, remembering, and evaluating the significance of their name. Dogs respond enthusiastically. Cats may observe quietly, but both species show remarkable cognitive ability in recognizing the words we assign to them. In a way, a pet's reaction to their name is one of the clearest examples of interspecies communication, a simple sound bridging two very different brains. Next time your cat tilts its head or your dog perks up, smile. It's not luck, it's recognition, learning, and maybe a little love all wrapped in one. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.